Shri Guru Varangavandar Giridhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupara Shitarashita Shishmar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Guru Deva Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupara Shitarashita Shishmar Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupara Shitarashita Shishmar Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupara Shitarashita Shishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupara Shitarashita Shishmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Babaji Maharaj की जाए। नित्यालल प्रविष्ट श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जाए। नित्यालल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जाए। श्री रूपानु गौरिय गुरु वार्ग की जाए। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जाए। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जाए। नाम अचय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जाए। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाए। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाए। सर्व अभिष्ट विदात गिरिराज महाराज की जाए। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जाए। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जाए। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाए। श्री भक्ति देवी की जाए। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जाए। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय। जय श्री गोपराज नंदन श्री कृष्ण चंद्र की जय। जय श्री अर्जुन की जय। Jai Shri Hari. All the commentaries of our acharyas, especially Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Baladev Vibhushan, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktivedānta Svāmī Prabhupāda, and Srila Bhaktivedānta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. All of their commentaries ki Jai. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams, Nri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Yugal Kishore Kishori Didi, Shri Devi Didi, Ganga Mataji, Vrinda Didi, and Indira Mataji, and I think there are a few other devotees that are watching. If you write a comment, I'll see who you are. Dandavat Pranams. Oh, Vidya Lalasa Didi, Hari Bo. All right, so let's do the Mangala Charan and then we will begin. I forgot to open this up beforehand. Let me just find it. There it is. Okay, let's start. Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Om Partaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena gratitam purana munina madhye mahabharate advaitamritavarshiniं bhagavatim ashtadashadhyayinim Amba tvamanusandadhami bhagavad Gite bhavarveshinim Namostute vyasa vishala buddhe Phularvindayata patranetra Yena tvaya bharata tailapurna Prajvalito jnana maya pradipa Prapanna parijataya totra vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya krishnaya Gitamrita duhe nama Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopala nandana Parthavatsa sudhir bhokta dugdang gitamritam mahat. The crest jewels of the Vedas, all the Upanishads, are like the cow. And the milker of the cow is Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the son of Nanda Maharaj, Goparaj Nandan Śrī Kṛṣṇa. Arjuna is the calf. The nectar of the Gita is the milk. And the fortunate devotees are the enjoyers of that milk. Vasudeva sutang devam kangsachanuramardanam devaki paramanandam krishnang vande jagarkurum. Tavai vasmi na jivami tvaya vina iti vigyaya devi tvam nayamang charanantikam bhaktya vihina aparada lakshai shitashtakama madhe kripa maitvam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Dandava. Oh, I already saw. Who's there? Oh, Nilay Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And seeing if anybody else joins on YouTube or Facebook. No. Okay. Also, pranams to anybody watching in the future. Haribol. So we are on, what is it? Today's day 3 of our recitation. We will be, in this session, we'll be going through the last chapter of the first part, which is Karma Yoga. And I think this one actually goes through the topic of Ashtanga Yoga. This chapter is it, what is it, 6? I think 6. And then from chapter 7 and chapter 8, then we begin the middle section of Bhagavad-gītā, which is really the most important section of Bhagavad-gītā, which is all on the topic of Bhakti Yoga. So I'm going to just look through this PDF just so that we get a little bit of a recap. I'm not going to do as long, like such a long one like we did yesterday. Eventually, I was just thinking, I was thinking it'd be really nice to do a very in-depth study of Bhagavad-gītā and go through the commentaries of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and then Srila Baladev Vijabhushan, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Thakur has a Rasik Ranjan commentary, which is also translated into English. And just to, and then there's all these study guides and everything. I thought it'd be nice to just maybe spend a few months just going really deep into Bhagavad-gītā. I think I really need it. um, anyhow, but
Sounds
so I'm
great.
not so, yes, Niri Hari Prabhu, yes.
Yeah, sounds great. I think it's great. To do an
Yeah,
in-depth
okay.
study, yes, with all the commentaries. Wow.
Yeah, that wouldn't that be great? Cool.
Yes.
Um, I don't, and I'd also try to make it so that we like get a good, like it'd be a study so that we can get a broad picture of how the whole Gita flows, and then zoom in to different parts and like just make it all and memorize all the most important verses. I really want to do that. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I first we have the Bhaktivinoda Gita program to finish, but I'm thinking because I've been talking about doing Chaitanya Charitamrita for a while now. Um, but I think maybe before we get into Chaitanya Charitamrita, it'd be good to have a really strong foundation in Bhagavad Gita, and then um, that might be more appropriate. Haribol Sarveshwari Mataji. Hare Krishna. All right, so I'm just gonna briefly go through this PDF. So, chapter 1, is observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. I'm just going to read the main topics in the chapter just so that we can get the flow. So, first was Dhritarashtra's inquiry to Sanjay. And Sanjay explains Duryodhana's fear and his diplomacy in describing the armies. Then there's a description of blowing the conch shells. Then Arjuna asks Krishna to take the chariots between the two armies. And then when Arjuna sees all his relatives, he becomes overwhelmed with compassion. And then he gives 4 reasons not to fight. Yeah. Haribol, Sarveshwari Mataji. Great to see you here after a long time. So first, yeah, compassion for his relatives, and then he sees no enjoyment in victory. And then there's the sinful reactions and the harmful effects of destroying the family, Varna Sankar, and so then Arjuna, completely grief-stricken, he decides not to fight. Then in chapter 2, which is the contents, Srila Prabhupada gave the title, Contents of the Gita Summarized. Then Krishna chastises Arjuna and disapproves his so-called compassion. Then Arjuna expresses further doubts and confusion, and then he surrenders unto Krishna. He says, please instruct me. Then Krishna explains Gyan, or Sankhya, an analysis of body and soul, or matter and spirit. Krishna says, don't lament unnecessarily. All individuals exist eternally, and the change of the body, or changing of bodies is natural. You should tolerate all dualities. And equanimity is the eligibility for liberation. The soul never dies, and the body is perishable. Changing bodies is similar to changing our clothes. The qualities of he explains the qualities of the eternal soul. And birth and death are inevitable. There's no need to lament for the eternal soul. So then Krishna explains sakam karma, performing your duties with a desire for getting some fruit at the end of it, enjoying the results. So by doing a prescribed duty of fighting opens the doors to heaven. By avoiding this fight, you'll incur sin, infamy, and criticism. And in victory, you'll attain sovereignty of this world. And in defeat, you'll attain heaven. So no matter what, whether in victory or defeat, the outcome is auspicious. Then Krishna progresses and moves. He speaks about Nishkam Karma Yoga. Now he's explaining performing your duty activities without any desire of the results, just offering the results to Krishna. So, and then he explains about Stitta Pragya, the qualities of a liberated soul, a Jivan Mukta, who is completely fixed in his intelligence. Arjuna asks 4 questions and Krishna answers the 4 questions. Anyways, we went over this yesterday. I'm not going to go through it in too much detail. Then the next chapter was on karma yoga. So Arjuna says, well, you're just explaining to me about renunciation and then also about performing karma. Like, so what should I do? Should I perform action or should I renounce action? Sannyasa karma. If you think, sorry, he's, no, no, sorry. Arjuna asked Krishna, if you think that buddhi is better than karma, then why do you want me to fight? So then Nishkam Karma Yoga is better for Arjuna than Gyan Yoga. So there are 2 types of people. There are Gyan Yogis who renounce work and Karma Yogis who do prescribed work. Premature renunciation of work is not recommended because inaction is unnatural. We have to perform action. A pretender externally renounces work, but internally dwells on sense objects. Better perform prescribed work for Vishnu and avoid bondage. Then from karma kanda to karma yoga, attaining happiness by sacrifice and cooperation between men and demigods. We should offer everything to the demigods. Those who don't are a thief. One should eat food which is offered and sacrifice. Yeah. Then the cycle of sacrifice, life becomes sinful without sacrifice. Then Nishkam Karma Yoga to set the right example. Okay, and then finally, in the 3rd chapter, he explains conquering lusts, the greatest enemy. Insatiable lusts causes material entanglement, covers knowledge, and influences in 3 degrees. Yeah, okay. Then one can conquer lust by regulating the senses and making the mind steady by deliberate spiritual intelligence. Then the 4th chapter, transcendental knowledge, goes through the lineage of transcendental knowledge. The disciplic succession. I explained this to the sun god, who explained it to Manu, who explained it to Ikshvaku. But then it was broken, the chain, this disciplic succession. So now I'm explaining it to you, Arjuna, my devotee. Then Arjuna asks, well, the sun god came before you, so how did you speak it to him? And then Krishna explains, Krishna remembers all his previous appearances, but not Arjuna. The uniqueness, time, and purpose of Krishna's appearance and the result of properly knowing about it. Those famous verses, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Krishna is the creator and culmination of all paths. Krishna reciprocates with the worshipper's mood. People worship demigods for quick results. Krishna created the 4 varnas. Krishna's work doesn't affect him. Liberated souls worked by understanding Krishna. Sorry, I don't know. Okay, then understanding karma on the platform of Gyan. The intricacies of karma are difficult to understand. Seeing inaction in action, the symptoms of a detached worker. Then the topic of attaining Gyan through yajna. The method, results, and glories of attaining Gyan. Attain Gyan from a guru by surrender, inquiry, and service. Tadvidi pradipatena. The results and glories of Gyan. There's no bewilderment, pure vision, and destruction of sins. So then he says, what was the last verse he says there? Wait 1 second. Here. So one who renounced fruit of actions by karma yoga, whose doubts have been destroyed by knowledge, who has realized the self, is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. Therefore, cutting all doubts which have arisen from ignorance with the sword of knowledge, armed with yoga, rise and fight, O Bharat. Okay, so then karma yoga. This is the last chapter that we recited yesterday. Karma yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So then Arjuna asks, Which is better, renunciation of work or working with detachment? Then Krishna explains that karma yoga, performing your duties without desiring the results of the fruits, is equal to sannyas, renouncing all action, but it's easier. I'm just, yeah. Okay, so renunciation and working in the spirit, sorry, renunciation and working in the spirit of renunciation are the same. But for Arjuna, working is better because premature renunciation is distressful. Performing Nishkam Karma Yoga that frees one from bondage. Um, okay. Then liberation by focusing on the Supreme. And I want to see the links here. Let's just see. So in the previous chapter, this one, chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, um, what does it say? Krishna spoke of attaining peace by Gyan and renouncing karma by Gyan, but again asked Arjuna to take up karma yoga. Arjuna found it impossible to perform renunciation of work in knowledge and working with detachment simultaneously. So in this chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna about the above contradiction, and then Krishna explains how renunciation and work are not opposites, but can be integrated. Krishna will explain the process of achieving liberation through karma yoga. And now in this chapter that we're starting with, now dhyana yoga. Let's see the link. In the previous chapter, Krishna described how to attain liberation by Nishkam Karma Yoga and also by Ashtanga Yoga briefly. At the very end, he explains about Ashtanga Yoga. In this chapter, Krishna describes Ashtanga Yoga in greater detail as a means to control the mind and senses. Before practicing the advanced stages of Ashtanga Yoga, one must be purified by the practice of Nishkam Karma Yoga. However, Ashtanga Yoga is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in this age of Kali. Thus, before teaching Ashtanga Yoga, which is the culmination of Karma Yoga, Krishna first praises Nishkam Karma Yoga in the first two verses because of its practicality. So the topics in this chapter are advancing in Ashtanga Yoga, then the stages of Ashtanga Yoga practice, and the necessity of controlling the mind. Then the destination of an unsuccessful yogi, and the bhakti yogi, the topmost yogi. That's how this chapter ends, is talking about the bhakti yogi. And then the next chapter 7, which we're going to also go through today, then it goes, this is the beginning of part 2 of Bhagavad-gītā, the middle section of Bhagavad-gītā, all on bhakti yoga. So let's begin now. Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. Okay, so the next 9 verses are on the topic of advancing in Ashtanga Yoga. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashrita. No, wait. 1 second. Let me just start this up so I don't change the tune. Oh, Haribol Gokuleshwari Didi. Let me just see if anybody else joins. Also, Suman Shilji, Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashrita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Kurutiya Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Niragnir Na Chakriya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. Yang samyasam iti prahur yogam tang vidi pandava Nahya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaścana. What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, are linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Arurukshor muner yogam karma karanamuchyate yogarudhasya tasyaiva shama karanamuchyate. For one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. So these are two levels, Arurukshu and Yogarudha. Yada hi nendriyartheshu na karma svanushajate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yogarudastadochyate. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. Uddhare datmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmana. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the controlled soul and his enemy as well. The controlled mind is the friend of the conditioned soul, and the uncontrolled mind is the enemy. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jita anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita shitoshna sukadukeshu tatamana. For one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Jnana vijnana triptatma kutasto vijitendriya yukta ityuchate yogi samalushtrashma kanchana. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Suhrin Suhrin mitrarudasina madhyasta dveshya bandhushu sadhushvapi chapapeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. One second, let me just open up this. Okay, sorry. So that was advancing an Ashtanga yoga. Then the symptoms of somebody who's at the topmost Yogarudha stage. Now, here are the stages of the Ashtanga practice. This will go all the way till verse 32. The stages of Ashtanga yoga practice. Yogi unjita satatam atmanam rahasi stita ekaki yata chittatma nirashira aparigraha. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Shucho deshe pratishtapya stiram asanamatmanam natyuchritam nati nicham chailajina kushottaram tatraikagramana kritva yata chittendriya kriya upavishyasane yunjar yogamatma vishuddhaye. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deerskin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities, and fixing the mind on one point. Samankaya shirogrivam dharayan achalang stira samprikshya nasikagrang swang dishaschanavalokayan prashantatma vigatabhir brahmachari vrate stita manasanyamya machitto yuktayasita matpara. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasa shantim nirvana paramang matsangstham adhigachati. Thus practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God, or the abode of Krishna, by cessation of material existence. Natyashnatas tu yogosti na chaikantam anashnata na chati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. I love these next two verses. There's no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, or sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Yada viniyatang chittam atmaneva patishtate nispriha sarva kamebhyo yukta ityuchate tada. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. Yatadipo nivatasto nengate sopama smrita yogino yatachittasya yunjato yogamatmana. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is controlled, remains always steady in his meditation on this transcendental self. Yatro paramate chittang niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati sukham atyantikam yattad buddhi grahyam atindriyam vetti yatra nachaivayam stitash chalati tattvata. Yang labdva chaparam labhang manyate nadhikang tatha yasmin stito na dukkena gurunapi vichalyate tang veda dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitam. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there's no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Sanishtayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa Sankalpa prabhavan kamans tyaktva sarvan asheshata manasai gramam viniyamya samantata. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon, without exception, all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Shanai Shanair Uparamed Buddhya Dhritti Grihitaya Atma Sangstang Manakritva Na Kinchirapi Chintaye. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Yato yato nischalati manas janchalamas tatastato niyam yaitad atmaneva vasham nayet. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. It's natural that our mind is going to go so here and there because it's flickering. But when we realize it's doing that, then just withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Prashanta manasanghenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. Yunjan evang sadatmanam vigata kalmasha sukhena brahma sangsparsham antyantang sukhamashnute. Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness and transcendent loving service to the Lord. Sarvabhutastamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. Yo mang pashyati sarvatra sarvang cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Sarvabhuta stitang yo mang pajate kattamastita sarvata vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Atmopamyena sarvatra samang pashyati dyorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mata. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna. Okay, so now those are the stages of Ashtanga yoga practice. Now, from verse 36, we're going to be reading the necessity of controlling the mind. Arjuna uvacha yo yam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat stiting stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudan, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Chanchalang hi mana Krishna pramati balavadridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayor iva sudushkaram. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue the mind, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asankshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena Chagrihate. Lord Shri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice, and by detachment. Asamyatatmana yogo dushprapya iti me mati vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo bhaptum upayata. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Now up to verse 45, Krishna is going to explain the destination of an unsuccessful yogi. For a yogi, there's no misfortune even in failure. Okay. Arjuna uvacha ayati shraddhayopeto yogachalita manasa aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim Krishna gacchati. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist, who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness, and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? Kachin nobhaya viprashtas Chinnabhran eva nashyati apratish apratishto mahabaho vimudo brahmanapati. O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence, fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Etan me samshayam Krishna chetum arhasya sheshata tvad anya samshayasyasya chitta na yupapadyate. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. So yeah, what happens if you take on this path of yoga and then all of a sudden you fall away from it, and then what? You're hopeless. You have no position in any sphere. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Parthanaive Hanamutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kashchid Durgating Tata Gacchati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friends, is never overcome by evil. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati sama shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashto bijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. Atava yoginameva kule bhavati dhimatam etadhi durlabhatarang loke janma yadish idrisham. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world. Tatra tang buddhi sangyogam labhate purva dehikam yatate cha tato bhuya sangsiddho kuru nandana. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. So he'll just continue from where he left off. He doesn't lose anything. It's eternal. Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate yavashopisa jigyasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. That's why we see people coming to the path of bhakti yoga, like the path of bhakti, and even though they just found out about Krishna the other day, all of a sudden they're like, we're going really, they just start, they continue from where they left off in their previous life. Prayatnad yatamanastu yogi sangshuddha kilbisha aneka janma sangsiddhas tatto yati parangatim. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately, achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So that was, so that was the destination of an unsuccessful yogi. He just continues life after life until he reaches perfection. Now, verses 46 and 47 is about the bhakti yogi, the topmost yogi. Tapasvibhyo dhiko yogi jnani vopi mato dhika karmibhyaschadiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi, a bhakti yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham margatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mata. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So we see how this is how the first section of Bhagavad-gītā ends. The first 6 chapters on the topic of karma yoga, it ends with bhakti, becoming a bhakti yogi. And now, from chapters 7 to 12, Krishna is going to explain the process of bhakti yoga. Knowledge of the absolute. Okay, one second. Let's just see the topics in. So, chapter 7, knowledge of the absolute. Here are the topics that we're going to read in this chapter. The glory of knowledge about Lord Krishna, knowledge of Krishna's energies, surrendering unto Krishna, demigod worship and impersonalism, from delusion by Maya to devotion to Krishna. So in the first 6 chapters, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul, capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. At the end of chapter 6, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga, called bhakti yoga. From this chapter, Krishna begins to explain the process of bhakti yoga elaborately. Earlier, Krishna spoke of attaining liberation by working with detachment, renunciation, and action. Now he'll speak about devotion and action. Before was Nishkam Karma Yoga, renunciation and action. But now is going to be not just Nishkam Karma Yoga, but Bhakti Yoga, devotion and action. It's positive. Of all the limbs of Bhakti Yoga, Shravanam, our hearing about the Supreme Lord, is foremost, by which one can know in full the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations. So now in the 7th chapter, Krishna asks Arjuna to hear about him. Shravanam. Okay, knowledge of the absolute, chapter 7. Oh, and Hari Bol Prajumna Prabhu and Mantra Murti Mataji. Hare Krishna. Let me just check here if anybody else joins. No, okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Sakta Manapartha Yogam Yujan Marash Ashraya Asangshayam Samagrang Mam Yatagyasya Tachrinu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Jnanam teham savijnanam idang vakshamyasheshata yaj gyatva neha bhuyonyaj gyatavyam avashishyate." I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. What's numinous mean? Means, okay, having strong religious or spiritual quality, indicating or suggesting the presence of a divinity. Okay, so spiritual, divine. So I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal, okay, so to do with this world, and spiritual. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Okay. Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin man veti tatvata. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Bhumir apo nalo vayu. Oops, one second. Let me just. So that was the glory of knowledge about Lord Krishna. Now, knowledge of Lord Krishna's energies. This will be until verse 12. Earth, water. Wait, I already read this, right? No. Bhumir apyo nalo vayu kangmano buddhire vacha ahankara iti yang me bhinna prakritirashtada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Apareyang itastvanyang prakritim vidhi me parang jiva bhutang mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another, superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. Etad yonini bhutani sarvanityupadharaya aham kritsnasya jagata prabhava pralayastata. All created beings have their source in these 2 natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, Know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. Matta paratarang nanyat kinchirasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idang protam sutre mani gana iva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Rasoham apsukonteya prabhasmi shashisurayo pranava sarva vedeshu shabda ke porusham nrishu. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Punyo ganda prativyangcha tejaschasmi vibhavaso jivanang sarva bhuteshu tapaschasmi tapasvishu. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all aesthetics. Bijang mam sarva bhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhi matang asmi tejas tejvasina svinam aham. O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. Balang balavatang chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. Ye chaiva sattvika bhava rajasastamasaschaye matta eveti tan vidhi natvaham te shute mai. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under control, I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So that was knowledge of Lord Krishna's energies. Now, up to verse 19, we're going to read about surrendering unto that Lord Krishna, who is the possessor of all these energies. To what verse? 19. Tribir guna mayar bhavar ebi sarvam idang jagat mohitang na bhijanati mamebhya paramavyayam. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Daivi yesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etang tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Namang dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhama mayaya pahrita jnana asurang bhavamashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankinds, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna arto jigyasurartharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. Oops. So there is those who are arti, who are distressed, those who are jigasu, who are inquisitive, artharti, who desire wealth, and the jnani, those searching for knowledge of the absolute truth. These are the four types of people who come to me. Tesham jnani nityayukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnanino tyartham aham sacha mama priya. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is very dear to me. Udara sarva evaite jnani tvatmaiva me matam astita sahi yuktatma mamevanu gatim. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mang prapadyate vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Okay, so now Krishna is going to speak about demigod worship and personalism up to verse 25. Kamaistaister hrita jnana prapadyantenya devata tang tang niyam no, sorry tang tang niyamamastaya prakritya niyata swaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Yo yo yang tanung bhakta shraddhayarchitumicchati tasya tasya chalang shraddham tameva vidadamyaham. I am in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Sataya shraddhaya yuktas tasya radhanamihate labhate cha tata kamam mayaiva vihitang hitan. Endowed with such faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Antavattu phalang tesham tarbhavatyalpamedhasam Devan devayajo yanti marbhakta yanti mam api. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods to go to the planets of the those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods. But my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Avyaktam vyaktamapannam manyante mam abuddhaya parang bhavam ajananto mama vyayam anuttamam. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was impersonal. They think that I was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudo yang nabhijanati loko mam ajama vyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Now, from till the ends till verse 30, Krishna's going to say, he's going to say, I know past, present, and future. All jivas are born into delusion, and one who is sinless can do bhakti with determination. A mokshakami bhakti, say, a, one who, a mokshakami bhakti, somebody who desires liberation, takes shelter of Krishna only for liberation, and knowing Krishna as Adibhuta, Adidaiva, and Adiyagya. Interesting. Okay, let's see. So this is from delusion by Maya to devotion to Krishna. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mang tu veda nakaschana. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. Icha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. O scion of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arisen from desire and hate. Yeshang tvantagatam papam jnanam punya jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanirmukta bhajante mam vrata. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives, and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are free from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Jara marana mokshaya mamashrita yatantiye te brahma tadvidu kritsnam adhyatmang karma chakilam. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. Sadi bhuta didaivang mam sadi yagyam chaye vidu prayana kale picha mam te vidur yukta chetasa. Those in full consciousness of me who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of, they know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. Now we come to the last chapter that we're reciting for today. Chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme. Okay. So in this previous chapter that we just went through, Krishna mentioned several terms starting with Brahman. In this chapter, Arjuna inquires about them in the first two verses, and then Krishna answers 7 of them. And then the last question, he answers the last question in the rest of the chapter. Okay. Then Krishna also speaks about Kevala Bhakti and Yoga Mishra Bhakti and describes the 2 destinations of the yogis. Kevala Bhakti, which is what we want, exclusive Bhakti, and then Bhakti, which is mixed with yoga. And then he explains the 2 destinations of the yogis. Okay. So from verse 5 onwards is Krishna's answer to the last question of Arjuna. Okay, we'll see what that is. And here are the topics in this. Lord Krishna answers Arjuna's questions, remembering Krishna at the time of death, remembering Krishna by Yoga Mishra Bhakti, by Bhakti mixed with yoga, then remembering Krishna by pure Bhakti, Kevala Bhakti, and then the material world versus the spiritual world, then the supremacy of pure Bhakti and attaining Krishna. Okay, so now these next 4 verses, Krishna is going to answer Arjuna's questions. Chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme. Arjuna Uvacha King tar brahma kimadhyatma kim karma purushottama adi bhutang cha kim proktam adi daivam kim uchyate. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Adiyagya katang kotra dehismin madhusudana prayana kalecha katang geyosi niyatatmabhi. Who is the soul of sacrifice? And how does he live in the body, O Madhusudan? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So I guess verse 5 onwards, we'll be answering this last question. How can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? But in these next 2 verses, Krishna is going to very briefly answer all these other questions of Arjuna's. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Oops. Aksharam Brahma Paramang Svabhavo Dhyatmamuchyate Bhuta Bhavor Bhavakaro Visarga Karma Sangita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material body, action pertaining to the development of the material bodies and of the living entities is called karma, our fruit of activities. Adhibhutam ksharo bhava purushashchadi daivatam adhyagyo hamevatra dehe deha bhritam vara. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called adhibhuta. That's the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adidaiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the Supersoul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adiyagya, the Lord of Sacrifice. So now up to verse 8, Krishna is going to speak about remembering him at the time of death. Antakale chamam eva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samarbhavam yati nastyatra sangshaya. And whoever, at the end of his life, quits his body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Yang vapi smarang bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tang evaiti konteya sadatar bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayarpita manobudhir mami vaishyasya sangshaya. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa ananyagamina paramang purushang devyang yati partanu chintayan. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. Now, remembering Krishna by Yoga Mishra Bhakti, by Bhakti which is mixed with yoga. That's up to verse 13. Kaving Puranam Anushasitaram Anur Aniyang Sam Anusmaredya Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnang Tamasa Parastat. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental, beyond this material nature. Prayane kale manasa, Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bruvor madhe pranam avishya samyak satang parang purushang upaiti devyam. One who, at the time of death, fixes his life air between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yad aksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaraga yad icchanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkar, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Sarvadvarani samyamya manohridi nirudya cha murdhyan murdhnyadayatatmana sorry murdhnyadayatmana why can't I say this first? Murdhnyadaya Murdhnyadayatmana pranam astito yoga dharanam. Sorry about that. Is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Omiteekaksharam brahma Vyaharan mam anusmaran ya prayati tyajan deham sayati paramangatim. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. So that is the process of remembering Krishna by Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Now, remembering Krishna by pure bhakti. These are the next 3 verses. Ananya cheta satatang yo mang smarati nityasha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yogina. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Mam upetya punarjanma dukhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana sangsiddhim paramangata. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Abrahma bhuvanaloka punaravartinorjuna mamupetya tu konteya punarjana navidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Now, the material world versus the spiritual world. This is up to verse 22. Sahasra yuga paryantam aharyad brahmano vidu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido jana. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Avyaktad vyaktaya sarva prabhavantya haragame ratragama ratragame praliyante tatraiva vyakta samgyake. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. Bhuta grama sa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratyagame vasha partha prabhavatyharagame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Parastasmat tu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatana yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifest nature, which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Avyakto kshara ityuktas tam aho paramangatim yam yang prapa yang prapya na nivartante tad dhamma paramang mama. This is nice right here. Yang prapya na nivartante. Once it's attained, one never returns. Tad dhamma, that is my supreme abode. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns. That is my supreme abode. Purusha sa parapartha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyanta stani bhutani yena sarvam idang tatam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated within him. So now, up till verse 28, so just the last few verses now, we're almost finished with the chapter. Krishna is going to explain the supremacy of pure bhakti and attaining Krishna. Yatra kale tanavriting avriting chaiva yogina prayata yanti tankalam vakshami bharatarshaba. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Agnir Jyotir Aha Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanang Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vido Jana. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god, in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Dhumo ratris tata Krishna Shanmasa dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasang Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. The mystic who passes away from the world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Shukla Krishne Gati Hyete Jagata Shashvate Mate Ekaya Yatyana Vritting Anyaya Vartate Puna. According to Vedic opinion, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. Naite sriti partajanan yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. Although the devotees know these 2 paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Vedeshu yageshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalang pradishtam atyeti tat sarvam idang viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Jai, bhakti is supreme. Okay, so that is our recitation for today. Tomorrow, we will go through, what are the chapters we're going through tomorrow? Let's just look really quick. Tomorrow we'll be going through chapters 9 to 11. Tomorrow's 9 to 11. So the most confidential knowledge, the opulence of the absolute, and the universal form. It's a really trippy part of the Bhagavad-gītā, really awesome part though. Yeah, so cool. 9, 10, 11. All right, I'll just end with a short Mahamantra, and then that's our program for today. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Jai Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Jai Srila Param Gurudev Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Swaparshad Shri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopigan Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Jai Shri Goparaj Nandan, Shri Krishna Chandra Ki Jai, Jai Shri Arjuna Ki Jai, Jai Krishna Dvaipayan Veda Vyasdev Ki Jai, Jai Bhagavad-gītā Ki Jai, Shri Mahabharat Ki Jai, Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Jai. All the commentaries of our acharyas Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vancha kalpatarubhyashcha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Dandavat pranams, Nri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Yugal Kishore Kishori Didi, Shri Devi Didi, Zoom user, I don't know what your name is, but Zoom user, Gokuleshwari Didi, Pradyumna Prabhu, Mantaramurti Mataji, and Chatamai Mataji. Sorry, I didn't see you before. Haribol. And on YouTube and Facebook. Gang Dialala Sadidi. Vidalala Sadidi saying, maybe we could split our reading days between Bhaktivinoda Giridhara and Bhagavad-gītā. What do I think? I don't know. I think I'd like to just focus on one thing, because they're so, yeah. I think I'd prefer just to focus on Bhaktivinoda Giridhara, and then once we reach the end of that, then we can focus just on Bhagavad-gītā and just fully get absorbed in that and all the different acharyas. Because I'm already like too splayed out and everything. I get very vata or whatever. I like to be grounded and just focus on one thing. And Hare Krishna, Suman Shilji, Hare Krishna. And everybody else watching in the future, Or Indira Mataji also. Haribol. Haribol. All right. Thank you so much for joining, and look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe.